In an effort to cut down on Russian funding sources, the European Commission is expected to propose a sixth sanction against Russia this week in response to its invasion of Ukraine. The sanctions may include an embargo on Russian oil. Ukraine believes that Russia's exports to Europe are largely exempt from international embargoes and are among the major funding sources. According to records from the Centre of Research on Energy and Clean Air, the European Union has imported almost £37 billion worth of fossil fuels since the beginning of the war between both nations. While sanctions have been imposed on various other sectors of business, the EU is not able to find an alternative for Russian oil and gas. According to the International Energy Agency data, Europe gets around 40% of its natural gas supplies from Russia. Also, the country is the region's main oil supplier. Few EU nations are heavily dependent on Russian imports. At present, Germany imports around 40% of its gas and 25% of its overall oil imports from Russia. Hungary imported almost 58% of oil from Russia, and Slovakia imported almost 96% during the last year. Eliminating an entire chunk of oil and gas supplies from Russia would create a major energy crisis in the EU, which may also increase inflation to multi-year highs. Countries that are less dependent on Russian imports are strictly imposing sanctions on Russian oil and gas imports, while others are still looking for alternate suppliers to stop Russia's funding. European Union countries are divided on how soon they could reduce their reliance on Russian oil and gas supplies. Germany's economic minister stated that the country would be able to execute a ban on Russian oil and gas by the end of the year. Hungary says it doesn't want to back measures that could endanger its energy supplies. Two major challenges are being faced by EU members. The first one is securing alternative supplies to reduce its dependence on Russian oil and gas, and the second one on creating alternative payment systems for energy supply that abides to the EU sanctions. Now, you can leave a comment below this video and you can share it with your friends. You can also subscribe to our channel and you can press the bell icon to get notifications for our latest videos. I'm Rachel for kalkinemedia.